Hello, welcome in. Happy Monday morning to all out there. This is the PHLY Phillies podcast. Jamie Lynch, Renee Washington, Tyler Zulli hanging out with you. And happy start of the MLB hot stove officially. The Major League Baseball season begins 5 days after the conclusion of the World Series. That marks today. That means the Phillies could theoretically go sign Shohei Ohtani right now and just splash the market and blow everybody's minds. I don't think any of us are optimistic that's going to happen, but you could do it theoretically. So happy hot stove to everybody out there, to all that celebrate. Will, and there is no Tyler. There is only Zulli, first in the chat today.
Love it.
What up? Hopefully everybody had a great weekend. Renee, you are donning the Kelly Green today, as it is a Victory Monday. Even though we cover the Phillies, guess what? We still love the Birds. And I got to do the pre and post game. I saw you were watching the game yesterday with some Cowboys fans.
Okay, you didn't have that. All the great things from watching the game yesterday.
Tense viewing situation yesterday.
You know what? I don't mind the heat, and I'm okay with watching games, getting into some back and forth, jawing about defending my teams, and that's what it exactly was yesterday, dealing with some Cowboys fans that are unfortunately, I've got relatives, I got close friends that are Cowboys fans, and it really comes to a head days like yesterday. But that Sunday prime time game, because it should have been a night game, was fantastic to watch.
Yeah, it was a good game.
It was a good weekend too. I mean, the Sixers win, the Eagles win. We each got to be on the respective shows for Sixers and Eagles.
Yeah, you
weekend,
did some Sixers work this weekend.
It was a fun one this weekend. We
Weird
loved
1 o'clock Saturday game.
I know,
but
I loved it because it gave us like a full 24-hour window to start preparing for the Eagles. So it was like Sixers going and win. We had the post game show. Now we're done. Now we can look ahead to the Eagles. And so, yeah, welcome in, you guys. Hit that like button. Make sure you're joining the chat. Give your hellos. Happy Monday. Michaela, welcome to the chat also. Trevor's here. I know you guys are jumping right in because it is free agency time.
I already see Blake Snell and Aaron Nola talk here in the chat. We'll definitely. So, this week, today's kind of about looking at some of the team finances, declining options, who's arbitration eligible, just getting our head generally around kind of, some of the money that the Phillies are going to be able to have to spend here and where they might be looking to spend it. The rest of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I think we're going to come up with a top 5 realistic targets for each position group each day of the week, and we'll dive into the nitty-gritty of some people out there. Blake Snell is clearly the top, I would assume the top pitcher on the market because of his Cy Young season, and we'll talk about that. Aaron Nola is, kind of, I think, priority number 1 for this team. There is no Tyler, there is only Zulli, says reports are saying goodbye to Nola and pursuing Snell instead. I have not personally seen that. If you can comment with who had that rumor. Yeah. There is no Tyler, only Zulli. I'd love to kind of suss out because, this is the time of the year, and we'll get into Bryce Harper and Scott Boris's, comments from last week and how it affects the Phillies offseason. But this is the time of the year where agents leak stuff and play the games through the media. And Tyler and I were just looking at like Alec Boehm, who's entering year 1 of arbitration. Now, Scott Boras could go, hey, Dave, why don't you give my third baseman, your third baseman there, why don't you give him that 4 or 5 year deal now, and let's just avoid arbitration altogether. It might do you well when it comes to renegotiating Bryce Harper or Nola is not Boras, right, Tyler? I don't believe he is. I'll have to double check that, but I don't think he is. But like those are the games agents play this time of the year. Hey, why don't you take a look at my client now, and I'll pull some strings with you down the line for other people. So not to say you can't believe everything you see right now going on in the rumor mill, but agents, they play their game pretty well, and there's going to be a lot of reports going on.
Well, agents are also looking forward to this week to start like we are because, as you mentioned, it's payday, it's business time. This is where they make their most money. They're out. A lot of them happen to be in Arizona and the Scottsdale area together having these conversations. I was like following all the different agent conversations.
The Arizona Fall Ball All-Star game.
So a lot of them are out there, and now you're having those conversations over dinner, over drinks, over let's go grab lunch and chat. And it is absolutely a business. And I know I've talked to many that have just been on the other side of whether as media or agents, and they talk a lot about, this is the time you're having those conversations a little bit more publicly so that people can see, oh, wait a minute, who is Boris talking to?
Oh, no, is that Boris with the Cubs owners over there getting his ribeye?
You have to play the long game because it's all about getting your clients the best possible deal. And I know in the chat, there is no Tyler, there's only Zuli was talking about, and that's a mouthful there, but okay, we still love it. Talking about the report that just came out. Yeah, that was just yesterday that it was reported by Cade Kistner, and was going back to Sports Illustrated talking about the Phillies will reportedly turn to Snell rather than retain Nola in free agency.
I don't know this fella. So I can.
I'm not quite sure where that information's coming from, but
it would.
I don't see any. It says according to USA Today, many executives believe that the Phillies will let Nola walk and pivot towards San Diego Padres starter Blake Snell. And then there are some quotes there.
They're both exactly
so it's like
30 years old.
It's quoting some other articles. So this one is now quoting Bob Nightingale of USA Today. That Phillies owner John Middleton, one of the most aggressive owners in the game, wants to make sure it doesn't happen again and will hit the free agent market. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure. They're talking. There's more quotes there specifically talking about he wouldn't mind bringing back starter Nola, but they were 4 years and about $100 million apart in their negotiations last winter. It's highly unlikely the gap will completely close. So GMs are believing that the Phillies will let Nola walk, but this is the time of speculation. It's a time to wonder, like we're talking about. Who's making a move? What move are they making? Because there is absolutely the rumor mill going around, and it's different articles that are talking about it, but I haven't seen a quote or anything specific to lead me to believe easily one way or the other.
Yeah,
but Christy, welcome. Tyreek, welcome. Ash, nice to have you here. Let us know in the chat what you think as we're breaking this down, reading it right now. I don't know, Jamie. I'm not the most sold that this is a definitive decision that the Phillies are moving away from Nola because it's just reports, as we know, versus anything that seems very concrete.
Yeah, look, Blake Snell would be a mighty fine option. He's probably the top pitcher on the market, and Nola right behind him. When you look at Blake Snell's career, he came up with the Rays. They typically have a great farm system. He had 21 wins back in 2018 with a 1.89 ERA. More recently, he finished this year with a 2.25 out in San Diego, 3.3 the year before, 4.20 the year before that, 3.2, 4.29. He's a career 3.2 ERA guy. He's going to get his money. Yeah. What will be interesting to me is if Nola and Snell get in the same general ballpark of money, which avenue they choose to go with, because I don't think there's any doubt a top-of-the-line pitcher is going to be their number one want and need, because Tyler and I talked about this real briefly this morning. It was like, if you're not able to secure one of those two guys, look, I'm all Yamamoto'd up, as Kevin Mooney in the chat says. I've never seen the kid pitch, but the stuff I read on him sounds phenomenal. But like, if you don't get that number two pitcher, it really changes everything. So I do believe it's their number one priority as an organization, whether it be Snell or Yamamoto or Nola. I do think one of those three is going to be in a Phillies uniform next year.
Yeah. I mean, this is the time when you look at free agency, there's a lot of different components that are in play here. One is you have to, of course, know like what you're looking for, what you need. You're not just going out. It's like you're shopping. You have a nice list of what your needs are, the priorities. You're working through that instead of just grabbing the flashiest players and the best players in the free agency market. But then financially that has to be a part of it too. There's reports coming out that Yamamoto is looking and possibly will get a 7-year deal that exceeds $200 million. You have to also play in a part. What can we actually afford? Everybody would love to go out and spend all the money in the world, but don't want to be the Padres over here and cashing checks that you can't, your bank can't really support. So you want to make sure you're also financially able to do it. And I know you guys are talking about Yamamoto in the chat, Kevin Mooney. Everybody's got an eye on Yamamoto. I mean, the performances that we've seen, had 14 strikeouts, didn't issue a walk in the last outing that he played. He's hands down one of the highest prospects and has been rated as the number 2 free agent right now for a reason. So it's now a matter of, okay, if it's not Nola, If it's not Snell, is it Yamamoto? What does that look like? But then also I always go back to, I know we talked about this before, Jamie, with Aaron Nola. Who's the best fit for the team? Because just like the Mike Trout conversation that's happened and Ohtani, there are a lot of great players. That doesn't mean they're great for your organization. And you want to make sure it's going to be a guy that can fit well. And Nola has been one that truly is Philly all the way through. If you're not bringing him back, who do you think is that guy that's going to be able to come into this organization and really fit in perfectly with what's needed?
Yeah.
That's the question. Those are the questions.
I'm sure the guy they hired from the Rays was probably there in the front office when Snell was in the system.
Yeah.
So they probably have a pretty good understanding of who he is. I don't think that's going to like rule their day. Because I think the core of that locker room is good enough where one pitcher isn't going to throw off the ecosystem. You want to take that into consideration. You do have a great culture going on, but I don't think any of the three guys would necessarily put any red flags up. Yamamoto is a kid, and he's going to be new to the country, into the league. You would think there's a sense of humility there. Coming over from Japan, he's a young kid. I think he's 23.
25.
Oh, he's 25. Wow. Okay. He's an old head.
Now he's old.
Yeah.
He was a young kid. Now he's an old head.
That's a big 2-year gap right there.
That is a big 2-year gap. 25 is a much more mature age in your life at that point.
The Yamamoto thing's interesting because they've never really gone over to Japan like this.
Yeah.
So this is something new for them, and it's one of the things I do like about, and we'll talk about Scott Kingery. This kind of new era of Phillies baseball is interesting because they're trying things historically they've never done before. Like Orion Kerkering this year, it was something they've never done before. Giving Scott Kingery that contract, although it blew up in your face, before he had played, like real major league games, was something they'd never done before. Johan Rojas coming up and kind of winning a job at such a young age and not being sent back down are things they've never really done before. So I like this kind of new outside the box, we'll kind of try anything to win mentality that the Phillies have. And if that means going to Japan, they were one of 5 or 6 teams scouting Yamamoto a lot this year. So I definitely think he's in the mix. Blake Snell and Aaron Nola are going to have choice, and they're going to have hand in this. So, it's a two-way street. The Phillies are going to have the money to spend. I would think, Blake Snell, who came from a highly competitive Rays organization, now couldn't kind of get the job done in San Diego with their highly competitive, expensive roster, which we'll get into a little bit more. I'm sure he wants to win. And if you're viewing the Phillies as a free agent, I would think if the money's there, it's a pretty damn cool place to play. You're going to have a chance to win. You have Citizens Bank Park, and you have superstars in the lineup all over the place. So, there's a really good chance they get one of these three and fairly easily.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. I think you have very unique, different types of pitchers that you're looking at. Yamamoto, who's been obviously captivating the world, has been racking up the honors, the accolades, Pacific League MVP, Samamura Award, which is the Japan version of Cy Young Award.
Oh, yeah.
Triple Crown. He just came off of a game. I'm just astonished at the numbers that Yamamoto is posting of like 130. I just lost it in my notes. There we go. 138 pitches. And across those 9 innings, just gave up 9 hits, 1 run, 14 strikeouts, as I mentioned before. And then on the other side, you have, when you're looking at Snell, you've seen the progression. You saw Snell have a 1-6 start with over a 5 ERA, a 5.4 ERA, 9 starts earlier in the season, and then turn things around and be able to go 13-3 with a 1.20 ERA in the final 23 starts. He is a Cy Young winner. These are guys that, like you talk about, you can't really go wrong with any of them. But I know somebody was saying, Trevor, actually, which of these 3 pitchers, you're saying in the chat, blink first and sign? Do you think Nola will wait till the market is set by the other 2, or can the Phillies realistically get him to set the market? That's the other part. Was talk about the long game. It's kind of like who makes the first move, because with every move that's made, the money typically is adjusted off of that. So you don't want to jump. It's also like the dating world. You don't want to jump at the first offer. You want to kind of pick and choose and wait and have some choices, because these guys get to, like we talked about before the show, these guys also get to have a say.
But what if the first offer like really gets you and makes you laugh and can cook and clean and does it all? Like, don't you just kind of jump?
Part. And
the Phillies might be able to cook and clean and do all these things. Maybe they're exceptional laundry people.
There's always something quote unquote better, but you're not always just chasing the better. You're trying to find the right fit. And like you talk about, that first dating prospect comes out and they can do, they check a lot of boxes.
When it's the one,
When you know.
Yeah.
And so that is the tough part. It's like, when do you pull the trigger and lock things down and make it official, versus when you continue trying to play hardball and see if you can get something better. I don't know. It's a weird situation. You've got 31-year-old Snell. You've got a 25-year-old Yamamoto, Nola.
Yeah, Snell and Nola are pretty much the same age,
right.
so there's no
they're
real
in a similar
advantage
kind
there.
of a ballpark.
And this is their big money opportunities,
Right.
like they've both made some money already, but this is the one that you're going to cash in big time with. So talking about the finances of the team, there's a couple people coming off the books as of right now. So they have about $46 million opening up between Aaron Nola, Rhys Hoskins, Craig Kimbrell, and yes, Scott Kingery. Now, Scott Kingery, to my knowledge, will be counted $1 million against the books next year. So whopping $1 more million. But he did have a $13 million option for this year that, according to Todd Zalecki and other reporters around baseball, this may shock you. The Phillies have declined to pick up that club option. So they are only on the books for $1 million. Scott Kingery is all but gone from your salary payroll. It's not my money, so it didn't really kill me, but he is gone. $13 million you just kind of gained by losing him. So $46 million comes off the books. We'll see what portion of that gets maybe reallocated to either Nola or to Rhys, depending on who they bring back. So based on last year's models, the Phillies spent $237 million. It was a very high payroll, first time in the club history that they've gone into the competitive balance tax, basically, act. So working on the theory that they spend a similar amount next year, which I think is fair because, as Vince Pellegrini outside and I were talking about real nerd stuff about them and draft picks and willing to pay taxes there. John Middleton and this new ownership group, you do kind of wonder how long is the black and mild money going to last for? But they did bring in the mortgage pavilion. What's the M&T mortgage?
Yeah,
they brought in a new owner last year for a share. So maybe there's been some more cash flow and maybe they're just ready to spend. I'm not worried about their money because
not my money.
Yeah, exactly. Go broke running the Phillies. I hope you guys, I don't hope you go broke, but I hope you put that much money into the Phillies where it's potentially an option. Live dangerously. So based on that, they could have roughly $57.5 to $60 million to spend.
Can I hold one?
I know, seriously.
Do you need help?
So theoretically, that's kind of, I'm not a, this is my crack math. So bear with me here. I am not a team payroll specialist, but I do like diving into salaries and payroll. So they're roughly going to have about $60 million to spend. Granted, the pitcher is probably going to eat up between 25 and 30 million of that. If you go by market value right now, Zach Wheeler's making 25.5 this year, and he's probably a little underpaid. So if you're going to get a Snell or Nola, you're probably going to be looking at close to 30 a year. Yamamoto you can probably get for slightly less, but with him you have to pay his club in Japan a cool 25 million just to get him. So there's money to be spent, and it'll be interesting to see how they spend it.
Yeah, I'm actually with Tyler. Let me hold the dollar. I mean, all this talk about millions and millions of dollars. Just 30 million here, 30 million there, 30 million everywhere. But here in my pockets, let me get a mill. Let me get $1. Nikki's saying just pitching, spend it on that end. Yeah, I mean, that's talk about. The priority's got to be pitching for sure. Because we definitely saw, and as we talked about last week, you can never have enough arms in the bullpen. And we saw that be an issue in the postseason where we were like, who's next?
Yeah.
Who are you going to next? So, I definitely hope that the Phillies continue to, and they've done a good job with that, with John Nelson. They've all done a good job with managing this and understanding the priority is definitely pitching arms. But I do like to go back to what you said earlier, a couple of comments ago about trying something different.
Yeah.
Even on the financial side, we've seen the Phillies try something different. Last year's numbers, the money that was spent,
the first
you
luxury
have to
tax.
invest. You have to take risks, whether it's, expanding. I love the fact that we're even having conversations about Yamamoto, who's a Japanese pitcher that's been playing in a whole other league, that you can have the opportunity to bring him in, because that is something that for Major League Baseball specifically, you want to have more of those opportunities to have.
Sure.
Yeah, you can have guys that you're bringing up through the program. The young guys, you're working them up through AAA.
And you kind of have those now.
And then you always have those, right?
So
and then now you can also
yeah.
get the international guys that are maybe crushing these fantastic numbers in their respective leagues that you can bring in. And it only just adds a little bit more flavor into the mix. So I love that the Phillies are trying something different. And I expect, spend it all. Look, you are about one or two guys away from being a champion. So throw it all at everything in the kitchen sink at it to see if you can land one of these pitchers that are free agents. And I'm all in on that, especially again, since it's not our money. Spend away.
I want one of those top three. That's my priority number
those
one.
Those are definitely any of those three.
I'm good with all three of them, to be honest with you.
Anybody out of that, I'm a little nervous because
once you get into like the Sonny Grays of the world and and look, the Rangers got a bargain with Eovaldi and he came up huge for them in this postseason. So it's not to say you can't do it, but it certainly becomes a little tougher to do. Yeah. So one of those three is definitely priority number one, I think, for all of us here. Tyler, do you agree with that? Pitcher priority number one, hands down?
Well, yeah, it has to be. Yeah. Whether it's Nola or somebody else, you can't just not fill a
major
you can't
hole.
fill 32 starts.
Yeah, we all love Ranger Suarez. How does he stack up against true twos around the league? Probably not nearly as well as he does against true threes. And then my second priority would be get 2 to 3 bullpen arms.
Bingo.
I don't, do you want to go out and get that shutdown closer? Dave Dombrowski basically told you, who is it? Hader's the top one on the market. Yeah, sure. Would I like Hader? That'd be cool. But I also believe you have Alvarado who can do it. Sir Anthony, I think, was trending in the right direction. So if you go get like 2 or 3 more arms and pair them with, a Strom, a Hoffman, and, maybe Brogdon or one of these kids steps up for you, you all of a sudden could have an elite bullpen. And as we saw in the playoffs, look, it wasn't really the pitching that let them down this year, but you can never have enough bullpen arms.
No, without doubt.
Rob Thompson got 16 outs one game with them. So, you need bullpen arms to win titles. Yeah,
and that's the thing. You need to have players that when you are deep in the postseason and you have a lot of innings and a lot, the wear and tear of the long season, you don't have to have a situation where Craig Kimbrell's going in back-to-back games. So I would absolutely prioritize a top pitcher, and then you're coming in with the bullpen as the next piece that you're looking to bring in a couple of guys. And hey, who knows what's going to happen as you talk about whether it's bringing in some new bullpen arms or it is some of these Brogdons or whoever else that you can talk about coming into the bullpen. Yeah. But without a doubt, it's got to be because it does start there, as we know. Like, yes, we can always talk about, and I've been the biggest proponent and advocate and frustration point of the hitting woes. But the bullpen is a huge part of the game, and we've seen that at times be a difference maker, Game 3 and Game 4 of the NLCS. So yeah, without Hader's on the market, I like Hader as one of the closers on the market. There's some other names like a David Robertson that I'm not really. Don't go that way. You might as well. Him and Craig can go to the other side.
We've already experienced David Robertson.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Let's not talk about David Robertson. So this is also the part that always scares me because I feel like. And Middleton's done a good job for the most part. I feel like we all have an idea of here's the top starting pitchers we can look at. Here's the top bullpen arms. It should be a simple, straightforward thing. But every once in a while, you get those questionable free agency signings. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. So I'm hoping that's not the case this year. I have faith.
Yeah, so
I have faith.
Addressing a couple questions in the comment section. Yes, Michael Lorenzen was a true rental piece. He is not signed here next year. I do not believe you will see him in a Phillies uniform. Greg MC, and the reason we were talking about Yamamoto is he officially got approval over the weekend to join Major League Baseball next year. So that's good. Liam
exciting.
Hendricks, Corey, yes, he did opt out. I believe he had a player option with the White Sox, and he came back early this year from skin cancer, if I'm not mistaken, and pitched pretty well when he did return. I think he had an IL stint, but a really inspiring story. Anybody that can kick cancer's ass is A-okay in my book.
Yeah.
And then Greg MC in the chat brings up a good point, and this is something I'd really like to see as well. You have to consider re-signing Zach Wheeler. He's in his last year of the deal, and do you want him to hit free agency next year? Congratulations, by the way, to Zach Wheeler for winning his first ever Gold Glove Award. Attaboy, Zach.
Yes.
I believe he becomes the 4th starting pitcher in Phillies history to win a Gold Glove. So huge congrats to him. Well deserved. We're kind of so spoiled by him. I didn't even realize he was, one of the finalists. But that's something you might want to consider too, is potentially getting Wheeler on that 2 or 3 year deal. He's phenomenal. He's one of the best big game pitchers in baseball. And if that's on the table to avoid him walking at the end of next year, hell yeah, get it done.
Yeah, I mean, the Gold Glove Awards came out. 2 rookies won, one in the NL, one in the AL. That was the 3rd time in the awards history that multiple rookies have won, according to Elias Sports Bureau. Twice in 2020, there were 2 award winners in 2022, and 13 first-time winners. Zach Wheeler, of course, being one of them. That's the second most since the award was established back in 1957. And Zach becomes the first for the Phillies since 1981 with Steve Carlton. I mean, it's an exciting time. It's well-deserved. I do feel like we absolutely get a little bit spoiled by Zach Wheeler because we just kind of expect from Zach. But I do think, like Greg is saying in the chat, please extend Wheeler and don't think twice. I absolutely agree. I mean, you need to not only make sure you're taking care of the logistics and business side with free agency, but you also need to lock in your guys. Zach Wheeler, Bryce Harper, we'll get into that, of course, as well, as that news continues to trickle out about his contract and what he wants. You have to make sure your best guys, your top guys, are happy and are getting paid what they deserve, most importantly. When someone like Zach Wheeler goes and wins, of course, he gets a nice bump in pay through this, but you go and you win the Gold Glove Award, okay, we need to make sure we're locking in on you because you do not want to have any possible chance of, having your best guys unhappy. Mickey, you're saying the Foco bobble of Wheeler is coming today.
Well, Mickey's a nut bobblehead collector, so that's good work by you using Foco.
Well, you know where else you can get bobbleheads? Right over at Foco, just like Mickey Durkin did. If you're looking to get any sort of gear, you want to represent Zach Wheeler, the Gold Glove Award winner, or whichever other players you want to buy bobbleheads of, order just like Mickey Durkin did. And you can use that code PHLY. Hopefully, Mickey, I'm assuming, used our code to get 10% off. For those of you listening on podcast platforms, again, that is code PHLY. And if you're watching, it's a code right in the bottom corner of your screen. They've got apparel, merchandise, bobbleheads, collectibles, whatever it is you need to be able to have your favorite players around your house, around your studio, around your office. So just like Mickey Durkin did, head over to Foco and get a nice bobblehead of Zach Wheeler, because he deserves you to buy all the bobbleheads of him after winning the Gold Glove.
Yeah, and we'll go through the list. We'll buzz through the NL winners because Bryson Stott did not win, but the 2 guys in his category both did win. One is a second baseman, one is a utility. But I love MLB Hot Stove and Cactus Kilgore in the comment section. Like, these are the conversations I love, and I do think baseball lends to these types of conversations better than most other sports because, 1, there's more trades, 2, there's no salary cap. So it's kind of like the Wild West in team construction. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat. I know I'm probably canceled by PETA for saying that, but that's what it is. I didn't create the saying. Would you give up Painter or Abel for Dylan Cease from the White Sox? Yes. Hell yes. Definitely yes. Proven commodity over a prospect any day of the week. I'm 100% in on that. The White Sox are kind of a mess. And, Liam Hendricks and their bullpen might be leaving. If Dylan Cease were to become available, yes. Hell yes. Maybe not Painter. I'd like to protect him a little bit. But if Abel or McGarry can get you in the ballpark for somebody like a Dylan Cease, a young kid with years of control left that's shown a lot of potential and that's just in like a bad organization, 100%. I wouldn't even think twice about it. Tyler, would you blindly give up McGarry, or let's just say McGarry and Abel for Dylan Cease?
Yes. Cease had a bad year this year. He had
7 and 9.
Really,
Yeah,
he struggled with
4.58
command.
ERA.
He really had a down year. But I'm very high on Dylan Cease. I thought when he and Lucas Giolito were coming up through the ranks, once Giolito was traded from Washington, I thought that both of those guys were going to be at like a front end of the rotation, like top of the line dudes. And
so does Chicago.
Listen, the White Sox are a dumpster fire right now.
They really are.
Everything that they have touched, like the saying, like everything they touch turns to gold. Like whatever the inverse of that is what the White Sox.
Dust.
Whatever they have touched has been awful. And like 2 years ago, we're looking at them like, wow, if they could get one more guy, they might be legit. Yeah. And now Jose Abreu is gone. Lucas Giolito is a mess. Dylan Cease apparently might be on the block. Like this team is a dumpster fire. Would I make the acquisition for Dylan Cease even after a bad year? Absolutely, I would.
Yeah.
Well, the other part of that is you talk about a bad year for Dylan Cease, that 4.58 ERA, 7 and 9 record. Part of it is you're a good guy on a bad team, and so when you have the opportunity, the Phillies are in a great situation.
Kind of like Zach Wheeler was.
Yeah, we all understand this. You don't have to be a deep dive or an expert to understand the fact that the Phillies also have some, an extra pull for the fact they went to the World Series, they went to the NLCS, that a guy like Dylan Cease is looking for a team like this to be a part of, the team that you can have a playoff run in and you can be competing for championships. And on the other side, I know you talk about Painter, but this is where a guy like Andrew Painter is possibly someone you can dangle out there for a trade capital, because obviously he's injured and you never fully know how a guy's going to come back off of injury.
Yeah, but he could come back like Henry Rowan Gardner.
He could come back. That's the other thing. You have no idea. He could come back and be great. He can come back and not be so great. But he's someone you can dangle out there as a trade prospect that a team that's, struggling might take and bring him in, knowing let's recover, let's get him back, let's get him stronger. He could be potentially a great fit for our pitching arms. Whereas the Phillies are looking for someone right now. I know Tacitus Kilgore is saying you agree, you do Painter and Rojas capitalize now. That's what it comes down to. What are those pieces you have? I know people were mentioning Castellanos and Marsh and Rojas. Those pieces you can dangle out there as trade leverage.
It's a 2-year window.
Now or later thing.
Yeah, like everybody's kind of in their prime. Castellanos and Schwarber's contracts are coming to an end soon. So is Wheeler's. Like, it's very much a 2-year push your chips in and go get a title now.
And the other thing
type
is
of offseason, which is really exciting.
A guy like Dylan Cease, and I'm glad you brought this up in the chat so we can even have this conversation.
Oh, we're going to go down so many
Tacky Kilgore is what I'm going to call you. Oh, yeah. But the thing I also keep in mind is how many times do we see athletes across all sports? Bradley Beal's the first one that comes to mind because the Sixers are playing the Wizards tonight, that stay too long with the team, waiting, thinking it's going to get better, and it never does. And by the time they finally make that move, they're injury prone. They're in the decline of their career. Not Bradley Beal specifically, but in general, decline of their career. A guy like Dylan Cease, you mentioned Zach Wheeler too. These are the guys you can capitalize up. There can be a plug and play. They'll be excited to be there. They'll be thrilled to be a part of a winning team. And for that reason alone, you want to take those gambles of making some of those moves. It is a win now mode for sure, Greg. That's what we're talking about too.
As Tyler points out, Cease did lead the league in walks this year. He was 6th.
Good point,
The
Tyler.
year before. The control needs to find itself. So yeah, like everything, there's going to be some risk involved with it. But if that kid can find his control and maybe Caleb Cotham is able to unlock something with him, that could be really exciting. And they do have kind of that extra outfielder that you don't really know what to do with. So whether it's Marsh or Rojas, I'm not attached to life for either of them. I think Rojas's defense is something you want in your system. Do you believe he can improve his bat enough to become an everyday player? I don't know. You might be able to sell high on him if that's what you believe. But as Greg MC says, Dombrowski's the damn man. So I'm curious to see what he does. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of different routes to go, and it's going to be a pretty exciting offseason. Now, typically, you'll see some small signings between now and the winter meetings. But the owners' meetings are, I think, December 3rd to the 5th down in Florida. That's when there's chum in the water, and the agents will be circulating and moving and talking to owners and pitting people against each other and playing games in the media. So that's when things really heat up. So we're about a month away from it really heating up, but I'm curious to see, as somebody said in the chat earlier, if they are going to be those aggressors and go out and, say, fuck it, let's set the market. Let's go after the guy we want. If we know Yamamoto or Snell is our guy, go get him. I do kind of hope this isn't like Bryce Harper where it takes until mid-February for something to happen. So that's kind of the timeline of things, and it'll be interesting to see if the Phillies and how aggressive they are.
Yeah, this is the seagulls swarming at the beach right now.
Those little bastards.
I know, but that's it. They're all swarming around looking to see who's got a sandwich or a fry.
My wife and
go
sister
down and snag.
Both got pooped on this summer within a day of each other.
That is always my fear. I've definitely been pooped on way too many times by animals.
I'm glad you clarified that. I was like, come on, Renee, say by animals. Say by animals.
Birds and dog poop and all. And so
it's really funny to see a seagull shit on somebody. Let's be honest.
It's gross and it's
hilarious. It looks like sand.
Terrible.
Those things eat sand.
But they are the seagulls swarming right now. They're all just poking around. I'm getting better at making
looking
sure to
for
clarify
Doritos
things.
and sandwiches.
Looking to see where they can swoop down and grab a fry or a chip or a piece of sandwich. Or a chicken tender, whatever it is. Clearly, I'm hungry now.
I'm actually very hungry. So
I am too.
The Crown Fried Chicken across the street was calling my name this morning. I'm not gonna lie to you. I might be getting some chicken fingers for lunch.
Gotta get some chicken fingers. Do you, Jamie? You deserve it. And so this is where the business side comes in, as we talk about. The conversations are happening. Everybody's putting the feelers out there, trying to see, who's looking to make what moves, how much. So it's the seagull swarming. So it's exciting times because we'll have plenty more to get into.
Yeah, and we'll deep dive it all off season because baseball off season is long. So I did want to hit on the NL Gold Glove winners before we move on to the Bryce Harper comments, because I saw somebody, was it Trevor Rice, in the comment section was like, "Wait, what do you mean Harper's contract? It hasn't been 13 years yet.
It has not been."
So
Good
before
math,
we get
Trevor.
to that, let's hit on the Gold Glove winners. First base guy we know, Christian Walker, back-to-back. Gold Glove winner for him, Norristown kid, so congrats to him. That's pretty cool. Second base, the guy that stole it from Bryson Stott. Not really. He's pretty damn good. Nico Herner, the second baseman for the Cubs. And then they win it up the middle because Dansby Swanson gets the shortstop Gold Glove award. So pretty nasty for the Cubs there. Third baseman, Ke'Bryan Hayes from the Pirates, takes the third place, or the third baseman. Another Diamondback at catcher, Gabriel Moreno, beats out JT Realmuto, and he's a pretty exciting young player. Zach Wheeler becomes the pitcher, fourth in Phillies history to get that. Left fielder goes to Ian Happ for the Cubs. So pretty spectacular defense, and kind of ironic that a botched play in the field is what basically prohibited them from becoming a playoff team this year. Center field goes to Brenton Doyle from the Rockies. Shout out to our DNVR sister station. Maybe you can talk about that all day. There's not much exciting happening in Rockies land.
There's a topic for you. Talk about Brenton. There you go.
And then right field, and I saw somebody ironically saying, did Nick Castellanos win in right field because he didn't have an error all year? No, he did not. He was robbed. No, he wasn't even a finalist. But it's pretty impressive that he didn't have an error. Fernando Tatis Jr. wins the right field Gold Glove, which is pretty incredible considering, he was supposed to be the shortstop of the future out there, and they threw him out in right field. And then the utility Gold Glove award goes to Seong Kim for the Padres, who was another second baseman. So Bryson Stott was the only second baseman finalist that didn't get the Gold Glove award. So congrats to everybody. I always think Gold Glove is such a cool award to win, not only from like the actual award itself, like the Gold Glove, but like to be the best offensive person at your position. I always like that would be really cool to win.
Yeah, I know. Jamie, I do have a question for you really quickly. I just want to touch on Mickey's comments in the chat. JT was robbed. I mean, I don't know about that, actually. I feel like
Moreno's pretty nasty.
To Moreno makes sense. And then, no, I do not use the porta potties at the beach because they're gross. Because, ew.
Everybody pees in the water. Come on.
Yeah, I just pee in the water, to be honest. Like, I'm all about that. Yeah. And that's it on that topic. But, Jamie, and actually, Tyler, I'll toss it to you, too. What would you win a Gold Glove in life?
Oh, for best defense? Gold Glove in life. I'm a really good house husband. I think I would win a gold glove and being a house husband. I cook, I grocery shop, I do the laundry.
When you were talking about the dating pool of finding the person,
yeah, I was talking about me.
That was you.
Yeah, I'm the ultimate prize out there, Renee. You know, Addie knew it when she saw it. She's like, I gotta lock this guy up. He's a winner.
You said you cook, you clean, you do what else?
I do it all.
Oh wow.
Take care of the girls. I'm a beast in the home life.
All right.
If she could just go out and become like a millionaire, I'll gladly retire. Like that's my dream in life is like to stay.
It's interesting to me. I feel like some men are almost like insulted by that.
Oh no!
Thought,
Bring it on. Go become a millionaire, girl. Go get that money. Yeah.
I honestly would be the same way. Like I'd be fine with it if my future husband was like, "Listen, we're good. We're making millions. Our net worth is up there. You know what? I'll be a social media influencer.
I'm a good cook. I'm a clean
post
freak.
all the reels about my traveling and get a business. I can make a fragrance line or lipstick line like a lot of housewives do. So yeah, who knows? Okay.
So what's your gold glove in life?
Well, I don't know the answer. That's why I went with you guys first. Tyler, I'm going to go with you, I think. Because now I'm not sure.
I was going with like one event. Like, you know, like, because if you play defense, like you play like second base, for example.
It's one thing you're good at.
It's one thing you're good at, right? So you're like, oh,
You're the utility.
You're like, I'm the world's greatest dad. I'm like,
yeah,
well, I don't know how to
crush it at that.
I don't know how to keep up with that.
My wife doesn't have to worry about
he just
anything.
raised that's why I was like, Tyler, you're next, because Jamie just raised the bar with that answer.
There was like, I saw a tweet one time that was like, me, what are you most afraid of? And then the person underneath was like, the infinite nothingness of like something really profound. And the guy was like, oh, I meant like kangaroos or clowns, but okay. So the only, I've always said this, the one thing that I would be, if it were an Olympic sport, I'd be in it, is catching things as they fall out of the cabinet.
Ooh.
That's my skill set. That's all I'm good at.
Impressive.
I'm really, really good at catching things as they fall out of the cabinet.
Did you ever see the one viral clip of a guy like working in a retail shop and something knocks off the shelf and he does this like spectacular grab and then he starts doing like the web thing? It's like, really funny. He's like, am I Spider-Man?
There is a whole Spider-Man thing you can.
Yes,
whole
no,
tangent, but you can literally buy.
Yeah, the web shooter. Yeah, we got that.
There is no Tyler. There's only Zuli. Basically, that was my ad for a sugar daddy. If I found someone that wanted to spend millions and millions of dollars and allowed me, listen, I don't envy
Shohei Ohtani when he comes to Philadelphia. He'll have a lot of money.
I'm here. I'll be Renee Ohtani all day. Count me in. What do you need? But yeah, honestly, I think for me, actually, Tyler, you helped trigger. I'm very good at fixing things.
Oh yeah,
it's the Virgo in me, and so I think I'd be
Tim the Toolman Taylor.
I am. I get a lot of like Bobby the Builder. You know, I'm the female Bob the Builder. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm a very good like.
Daniel Tiger's mom is a handyman or handy woman, I guess, handy person, whatever you want to call it.
That is me. Yeah. I'm definitely like a great fixer. I like can put stuff together very nicely. I can fix furniture or whatever, cars, things, whatever it is. You know, I've got it.
You know, it's a fixer of your ticket needs in life, and I used it again on Saturday night when I went to a comedy show with some buddies. That's the Game Time app. Use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Those convenience charges can get hefty out there, but with Game Time, your first one's pretty much going to be taken care of by them. And I paid significantly less than my other friend who had gotten tickets from another app. So I made sure to rub that in his face all night. And I said, dude, you got to use Game Time. It is the best place to buy tickets to your favorite events. It's not stressful at all. They have killer deals on last minute tickets with their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you're going to have. Flash deals, last minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every event in your area. And the one thing I really loved was the view of your seat, so you know what you're getting into for depending on what event, whether it's theater, music, sports. People have different preferences where you want to sit for different events, so you get to look at that and take it into consideration. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat like I just told you. You can buy tickets in seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. Tickets sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your emails and all that annoying stuff. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, just create an account, redeem code. I don't know why I said redeem funny there. Redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And hello, Barbara Carroll. Welcome in. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Well, before we get into Bryce Harper, I know we were going to...
Yeah, these comments kind of suck, but I get it.
Yeah, but I want to first get in something that was exciting and happy, and that's Bryson Stott. Let's keep on the positivity trails. You're talking about being
he's going to hit 30 home runs
dad.
next year with his new
Bryson Stott gets a baby girl. He's a girl dad. Him and his fiance Drew White welcome their baby girl. She was born Saturday, 7 pounds 3 ounces, if you were wondering. And
she gets to share a birthday with me. What an honor for her.
I know. So what?
Me and her, kindred spirits.
I love that actually. I didn't even think about that, but
that's my birthday buddy.
That's your birthday buddy. Mm-hmm.
So shout out her. What's her name again?
I don't actually remember.
Did they not say?
I don't know if they released her official name yet.
That's cool.
But yeah, maybe it's Jamie.
Yeah, if you know.
Jamie Stott.
That works.
Right.
Yeah, but with
exciting.
becoming a dad, you get a little more extra strength. So let's hope Bryson.
Get the dad strength.
Yeah, he's got that dad strength for next year. So I expect an uptick in home runs.
I mean, or sometimes it goes the opposite way where it just looks like athletes are drained because they're dealing with a baby at home, and that's a lot. But he'll be on the other side of it. He definitely is going to have the dad strength. I'm sure we'll see him out there, proud dad. It's also just mentally, it's a little bit different, as you know, as a dad. I don't know as a dad because I'm not one. That it just hits
You're
a little.
not?
I'm not a dad. I'm not a dad. In case you guys are wondering,
it makes you a little soft emotionally. I'll say that.
It definitely made you. I get that vibe, but it also just makes you see life differently. That's where some of those more sentimental, emotional, empathetic aspects gets pulled out because you're a girl dad, not just a dad, as a girl dad.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. You two are sharing a birthday.
Congrats to the Stotts. A whole new world you're about to enter.
A whole new world.
Say goodbye to your naps and sleep as you knew it. Even if your wife or nanny or whoever is taking care of things, it's still never the same. You hear phantom cries in the distance, like you just, you're always on alert. It's just life's never the same.
Every baby you hear crying, and I don't have kids, but I just know that from my niece and nephew. I just remember I would hear cries and I'd be like,
what was that? And then you're like, oh, nothing. It's just my brain playing tricks on me. So Trevor Rice in the comment section had asked about the Bryce situation and what was up with the contract. Well, theoretically, nothing is up with the contract because he signed a 13-year deal and there's still, 9 remaining on that. But he has Scott Boras. And Scott Boras clearly did not agree with the contract that Bryce signed. And in that, he means the no trade, no opt-outs, all of that.
Yeah.
So Scott Boras last week went on the John Heyman podcast, and this is not a problem ultimately because John Middleton has even said the same thing, that he's underpaid. Bryce has kind of
Bryce that himself.
Yeah, like he's outperformed his contract. I think you got a team friendly deal because Bryce wanted to commit here, and we'll read the quote for you in a second. But he also wanted to be competitive, and he wanted the team to spend and have the ability to win titles. So with that takes a little bit more money. So it is what it is. But this is what Scott Boras had to say last week on the John Heyman podcast. I think Bryce's point was, I created the opt-out with Alex Rodriguez, so Bryce was fully aware of it. I may have advised him on this 6 different times. This is not the economic way to do this. Bryce's point of view was, look, I'm going to go there and I'm going to commit. I'm going to go there and win. I want to show the fans that I like them and I'm in one place and we're going to win this way. Then when the time comes after I produce and prove what I do, if I have discussions or matters related to economics, I want the owner to say, which I give John Middleton a lot of credit that he did say, is that Bryce Harper is undervalued. And that's the whole goal. He gave him a record contract. After 3 or 4 years of performance, he delivered more than expected. And then the player, if he has the economic dynamics that he wants to discuss, he'll do so with his ownership. And that's how Bryce felt. So if that's how he felt when he signed the original deal, that discussion is going to very much be on the table between Bryce and John Middleton in the very near future. You're going to have to pay Bryce Harper more money.
Yeah, you are.
Which is fine. It's not my money.
Exactly. And I mean, listen, as you talk about, even last year after the homer by Bryce in Game 5 of the NLCS, Middleton admitted then that, Bryce had been handed to them, signed for a bargain. We all know that Bryce has overperformed in a quick time, has really exceeded a lot of expectations. And now, without an opt-out, puts Bryce and Boris, and I always think Bora Bora when I hear Boris, but I'm just gonna,
I'd
whatever.
like to go to Bora Bora.
I'd love to be at Bora Bora, but Bryce and Bora.
Find that sugar daddy, Renee. You'll get there.
That's all, guys. That's all. It puts them in a situation where they don't have an opt-out, which means there's no leverage. And now having 8 years, $196 million left in his contract, Bryce doesn't have that same ability to go back and say, he wants more added to his contract easily. So I know Boris has, and for Harper, there's been those conversations about needing to sit down with ownership, needing to have talk about what is that we want to achieve? What are our goals? It's every once in a while you need to align again. And I think it is tough because a 13-year deal, as we all know, it's much changes. So much changes at that time. And I love the fact that Bryce committed to it because he wanted to show Philly how much he's committed. He wanted to show that he's willing and okay with taking, a different type of a contract for the greater good of the team because he wants to win championships here. So bigger picture, he was saying and doing all the right things. But now that we're in the nitty-gritty of things and Bryce has been exceeding expectations, it is tough when you look at it.
And Ohtani's going to completely reset every market that's ever existed. So, Bryce is going to be looking at, and you don't want him to grow salty. So, Barbara says in the chat, that he's, that's just the agent talking for him. Well, here's the follow-up quote to that.
Yes, there's more.
Boris says, no, it's not crazy. Bryce has mentioned that he wants to sit down with ownership in time and talk about. He wants to achieve all of his goals in Philadelphia. He obviously wants to play into his early 40s. He has those goals. He really wants to do everything he can to put up Hall of Fame numbers. I think he's committed to the game, committed to his city. All those conversations will be coming forward at an appropriate time.
Yeah.
So when that appropriate time is, who knows? Maybe it's when they're having do you want to play first base or right field? What are you more comfortable with? Maybe they have the conversations then. Again, not our money, but be on the lookout for either negotiations or more guaranteed money finding its way to Bryce Harper in some way, shape, or form. How that would look, I don't know, because you don't really want to extend him that much longer because he is into the early 40s at that point. But
he wants to play until he's 45, Bryce has said.
That's wild.
That's his goal. He said that he wants to play until he's 45, and that is very, very wild to hear. I know Mickey is saying extend it out another 10 years. As you're talking about, the years aren't really, Father Time isn't really on Bryce's side in terms of another 10-year extension. But Trevor's asking about or mentioning, it's not that bad. I thought it was a legit issue. Bryce is definitely underpaid. It can be, though. I mean, let's be honest. Money is a very awkward situation. I hate having money conversations with anybody. It's a very tough thing to talk about, especially within your workplace. So for Bryce Harper coming into the Phillies and for Scott Boris to have these conversations, you're trying to find that middle ground of, I'm rewinding back to when the 13-year deal was first being orchestrated. You're trying to figure out what makes the most sense for my client and also for the team, because you don't want to come across as the guy that's just here to collect all the checks and you don't care about what makes sense for the team. And you're trying to find that balance of getting paid what you deserve, but also making sure it's not going to be something that the team can't afford and they're now looking you at as a selfish player. And Bryce's decision was very selfless. But now when you fast forward and look at it, it puts you in a tough situation, because if for Dave Dombrowski, and for Middleton, they're focused on Aaron Nola, Rhys, all free agency. If you dismiss Bryce Harper or you don't have that conversation, it almost comes as a disrespect. Anybody that's in the chat or listening to the show later, I'm sure at some point you've had to go back into your job, for instance, and talk to HR and have maybe like a contract negotiation, a conversation, or salary conversation, or pay raise conversation. It's awkward, but it has to happen. And if your HR department was to come back and dismiss you when you've been working there for 3 years now, let's say, and you've been exceeding expectation and crushing it on your quarterly goals, and God forbid they come back and dismiss you, that leaves a very sour taste in your mouth. So it's not a big deal in the sense that Bryce is happy here. But depending on how these conversations go, when they happen, if they happen, how they happen, you want to make sure you're being professional, that you're respecting who Bryce Harper is and not making him feel dismissed and unheard, because he's bringing up valid points alone from how he's been performing with the Phillies. So
yeah, John Middleton knows all that, and I think he's emotionally intelligent and knows all that. A couple of people in the chat are saying give him a stake of ownership. I believe that is illegal, if I'm not mistaken.
Or
else I'm sure John Middleton Middleton would toss him 2 or 3 percentage points. Mickey Durkin says give him that Bobby Bonilla type of deal. And that might be something. I believe he does have some deferred money in the deal.
Yeah.
But the reason Scott Boras is bringing this up, and Tyler has a list for us here, because every year baseball contracts grow. And while the deal may be fair-ish now, in 5 or 6 years, it's going to be like stealing. So Scott Boras is probably trying to get ahead of that to a degree. Tyler has a couple names of people that are making more money than Bryce Harper next year.
And this is the tough
and hence
part too.
why Scott Boras raised this to John Heyman.
I'm gonna preface this by saying there are some guys on this list that are ahead of him that are 100% deserving of the money that they're about to make,
Absolutely.
such as Mookie Betts, who's about to make $30 million, who's one of the best players in baseball. Corey Seager was
just won a World Series.
World Series.
Well-deserving.
Huge piece of the World
MVP.
Series. $35 million. Garrett Cole might be the best starting pitcher in baseball right now, 36. But
pitchers are almost different than position players.
Some of the guys that are on this list include Carlos Rodon, who signed a massive contract with the Yankees and was hurt for a majority of last year. Chris Bryant, who signed a massive contract with the Colorado Rockies and hit 233 a
his
season
former
ago.
AAU, whatever they call it in baseball, teammate.
One of the absolute scam jobs of the history of modern baseball. Giancarlo Stanton is at $32 million.
Wow.
And he just got hurt for next year during this conversation.
Steven Strasburg was set to make 35 before he retired. He would have been at $35 million. How about this one? This is the most disgusting one. Patrick Corbin, $35.4 million.
And the Phillies dodged that bullet.
And actually, I lied to you. That may not be the most disgusting one because this is the absolute
getting worse.
This is the scam job of the century. $38.5 million next year is allocated to Anthony Rendon.
See, that's the tough part, though. When Bryce signed that deal, it was a historic deal. But with every year, there's more and more money being brought in. You know, teams have more money to allocate. The amount of, contracts, the amount of annual pay that guys are getting is increasing. So that deal, as you talk, the 21st on the list, he's the 21st highest paid guy on the list heading into 2024. That's wild.
And he's pretty much become the face of baseball.
He has,
here.
and that's what makes it tough.
He kind of was a little bit before, but I think
he really is
with
now.
his clutchness and playoff performances.
Yeah, so I agree. I know Trevor's saying in the chat, and you mentioned it too, we all feel optimistic with the conversations that are going to be happening between Bryce Harper and Scott Boras and Middleton. But it is something that I'm glad it's being brought up because there's 20 guys above him. And I don't know across those 20 names how many really, if I'm Bryce Harper, I'm looking back and okay, that's
fine. And Ohtani's about to far exceed all of them. Ohtani, because of, he can't pitch next year, but between the offensive and pitching aspect, he's probably going to get north of $40 million a year.
Yeah. The numbers just keep going up.
That's why
that's sports, though.
Scott Boras is no dummy.
My gosh.
And he represents Alec Boehm and other players and Rhys Hoskins of the world. So he's going to, he's going to put the coals to John Middleton. It's why you get Scott Boras as an agent. Don't hate the player, Renee. Hate the game. And Scott Boras is very good at playing the game. You know who else is good at playing the game? Our friends at Wheelhouse Cards. Because they have great locations in Wayne and Westchester. And I saw at their Wayne location this weekend, they had a Fanatic CEO and Plymouth White Marsh High alum Michael Rubin in, who's very involved in the card game this weekend. And he was given a game-worn, autographed, and beat out to some of the customers over there at Wheelhouse Cards. And Wheelhouse Cards is our go-to sports card, gift, and apparel shop in the Delaware Valley. Their motto is cards and community, because a love of sports is what unites us all. They carry all your favorite card brands from Topps Chrome Baseball to Mosaic Football, as well as T-shirts, hats, hoodies from brands like Mitchell & Ness, 47 Brand, Junk Food, Starter, and Shibe Vintage Sports. Looking to grade your sports card collection? Well, Wheelhouse offers PSA grading submissions. They also host tons of different family-friendly events and birthday parties every month. Stop into either of their stores in Wayne or Westchester, open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. And use code PHLY to get $10 off any purchase of $25 or more in store. Be also sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Wheelhouse Cards. So yes, very happy that Wheelhouse is a part of the family.
Yeah, and I am happy too. I know we're also getting closer to winding down the show here. If you listen closely, you might hear my stomach gurgling because I'm a little hungry. But you know where you can have a great lunch and you can make some awesome sandwiches? Hero Bread. Hero Bread has rolls, sliced bread, any types of delicious bread or tortillas, so that when you're going to lunch, you can eat healthy, your stomach doesn't have to grumble, and you can also make sure that it's delicious too. And if you didn't know, founder Cole Glass actually baked 100 muffins per day before finding the perfect blend that was dealt with, didn't have any allergy constraints or any other issues, and that's what pushed him to start Hero Bread. It's a low-carb option that fits your lifestyle as well as any dietary constraints, and it also allows you to have a fluffy, soft sandwich of bread. It's high fiber, ultra-low net carbs, 0 gram sugar per slice. I've tried them myself. Very delicious. Highly recommend that you try some Hero Bread yourself. And right now, Hero Bread is offering the PHL family 10% off of your first order. So when you go to hero.co, you can use the code PHLY to save on Hero Bread today and get 10% off. So now when you're going to lunch, dinner, or even for breakfast, you can have a delicious sandwich, wrap, muffins, whatever it is. It is not Tyler Hero Bread, John Dickerson, but it could be. It could be yours too if you go over to hero.co and use that code PHLY for 10% off.
As we're wrapping up here, MBD says, I totally get the point of the Harper discussion, but wasn't the trade-off for Bryce the term of 11 years for the lower annual average salary? Yes, that was the point, but when you're a Hall of Fame baseball player and you have the biggest bulldog agent in the game, you can play these games. And, it's not like he's going to pull a James Harden and put on a fat suit and play his way out of here, but you want the face of your franchise, the heart and soul of the team, to be happy. So, if Ohtani goes out there and gets, say, $53 million this year from a team, Bryce Harper's going to be going, wait, I'm only making 25. Yeah. And you don't want that resentment to kind of grow. So, yes. And Chris Nevin, that will never happen. And I know you're kidding.
I saw that in the chat.
He says, does anyone approach Boris when it comes to the day where Bryce underperforms the contract and asks him to restructure for less? No, that's not going to happen. And
you're not even going to speak that into existence, Chris. Yeah, that is not going to happen.
You have to assume those final 2 or 3 years of the contract is probably, you're probably going to be paying for a player that isn't what he once was, but that's what got him here. And I don't think anybody regrets it or would do it over again. 13 years, yes, Greg MC, not the 11 years.
Correct. Well, yes, we have plenty more to get into. It's only Monday. Lots more to talk about around free agency. As John Dickerson is reminding in the chat, hit that like button. We've got more shows coming up this week. So today, of course, this was the 11:30, but our times kind of vary this week. We have it posted on our Twitter account as well, so you always can stay up to date on when the shows will be going live. But for those of you that are tuning in right now, just to let you know our schedule for the week, we'll drop it on the screen for you in a moment. You can make sure that you are watching live with us on YouTube. If you miss it live on YouTube, you can go back and you can also watch the show afterwards on YouTube. You can listen across podcast platforms. You're also able to join the conversation or keep the conversation going on Discord. For those of you that, you're still talking now about it, there's so much to talk about around free agency. It doesn't have to end when the show ends. You can keep the conversation going. Yeah. So we will have more tomorrow, Jamie. We'll be back live at 12:30. So starting a little bit later, lunchtime show for you guys. That will be kicking off at 12:30 Eastern Time, 12 o'clock on Wednesday as well, and then 12:30 again on Thursday. So we're sticking around that lunchtime hour that you guys can join the show and be able to tune in and have conversation with us. And then Friday, which is wild, it's already November 10th on Friday, which is crazy. We'll have our show live back at 11 a.m. So plenty to talk about, Jamie, as we're taking a look ahead at this week's schedule that you guys can join in the conversation with us live during your lunch break. Yeah, and tomorrow I think we kick it off since we had such a good discussion about starting pitching today. Yeah. Tomorrow we will come up with our belief for the top 5 targets of starting pitching. We kind of got into 3 of them, but we'll deep dive starting pitching, because I think that's the number one option for this offseason, whether it's Nola or Snell or Yamamoto or Sonny Gray or whoever it may be. We'll dive into that, come up with a consensus, and deep dive that a little bit tomorrow. But we appreciate each and every one of you for hopping in the chat. We love you guys. This is going to be, it's an exciting offseason now that we've put 2023 behind us.
kind of licking the wounds and moving forward here. They're still very much in a championship window here for several years ahead. So this offseason is very, very important one, and we'll be here for you. We're going to be unveiling a new kind of fun MLB ballpark stadium game that we'll be doing on the show daily and on social medias. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at PHLY_Phillies. You can follow our main account on Instagram at PHLY_sports. And we'll be engaging with a ton of you all off season long
Plus, we'll have some guests on. I know Chris Nevin's asking about when does Gelb come on. We'll have guests on, whether they're writers or Phillies reporters, Major League Baseball reporters. We'll also have former players that are going to be joining us, some other Phillies personalities that'll be on the show as well. So, this off season doesn't have to be a drag. You guys can join us every day, 5 days a week, as we'll be able to have live shows and more conversation, dissecting all that's going on in the off season, because there's plenty of great things to talk about. Not a great thing to talk about, as John Dickerson's saying, we need a fat head of you in shorts on the wall. No, we don't. We're good.
I don't think anybody needs that.
No thanks, John. No thanks. Maybe you can have one at your house, John, or Jamie, maybe you have one of yourself.
Nope. I'm not like A-Rod. I'm not going to have a half Minotaur, half Jamie portrait above my bed. But we will be back tomorrow at 12:30. Thanks to each and every one of you for hanging out. Don't forget to check out the podcast if you missed the YouTube feed for Renee, Tyler, and myself. Thanks for hanging out with us today on the PHLY Phillies podcast.
Woo-woo.
We all silly like the mayor.